the spotlight on the sugar pack because that sector is also in the buzz as ISMA has come out with their revisions in the sugar prices. The sugar MSP has not been revised actually since 2019. So there has been some recommendations. They have proposed to revise the sugar MSP. So let's deep dive more into that what these recommendations mean for the sugar industry. There's also a chatter that exports should also be given some relief. So let's understand more from the industry experts then. We are being joined by Deepak Ballani, who is the Director General at ISMA, as well as Atul Chaturvedi, who is the Chairman at APOA and Executive Chairman of Sri Renuka Sugars as well, are joining us on the show. A very good morning, gentlemen, and thank you so much for your time. First of all, I would like to come to you, Deepak, to have your take on the recommendations by ISMA overall, because ISMA has urged the government to revise the sugar MSP to 39.5 rupees per kg. So where do you see the retail prices stand currently, and how much of an increase in the sugar MSP will be considered to be meaningful?
Yeah, hi, good morning. So, as you know, the last time the MSP was revised was way back in 2018-19 when the FRP was much lower. Today, the cane payment which we have to do is much higher. The FRP is much higher than 2019. But unfortunately, in last 5 years, the MSP has not been revised. And we are seeing the effect of the not revising the MSP. Today, the Maharashtra ex-mill prices are way below 33 rupees. And that is really hurting the industry because it is much less than the cost of production. The cost of production is almost 40 rupees and selling at almost 32, 33 rupees is really hurting the industry. And I really fear that if this continues, it will really affect the cane payments which we are supposed to do the cane farmers within a time frame. So I believe the SP announcement is much overdue, and we have been talking to the government. We have been recommending that the entire FRP has to be linked with MSP, and there's a formula to it, like it was done last two times. And as per the formula, it has to be fixed at almost 39 rupees, so that the market could be up and it could be viable for sugar industry. So it is really we are hoping that government will now take some action since the ex-mill prices have really come down and the industry is really getting hurted. So I think it is high time that the government considers the MSP and announces as soon as possible without any further delay.
All right, then that's really hurting the industry, and the MSP price revision is really needed at this point in time. We totally take your point, but I also want to have good morning to you, Mr. Atul, first of all, and wanted to have your take as onto the export side, because that's also one of the key things that industry has been asking for, and they have actually gone ahead and asked the government to relax the export restrictions and allow exports of 20 lakh tons. So do you expect an announcement anytime soon? And also if you can help us understand that how important it is at this point in time to get some relief onto the export side.
No, honestly speaking, I don't have the same enthusiasm as our friends in ISMA have, because to me, talking about exports at this time of the year when you're not even sure as to what the production is likely to be can be a little counterproductive. The only effect of all this talk about exports and all happening, or rather being recommended, is having a negative effect on the world values. In fact, we might ultimately see world values coming down to a level where Indian exports will become absolutely unviable. To my mind, the best time would be to talk about these exports sometime in February, by which time one would be sure as to what the production is likely to be. Whatever we say, but there are doubts as to whether the production this year of sugar would be more or less like last year or maybe lower. So when we are not sure about the production levels, so talking about exports is a little premature. My take would be that we should actually be pushing for more of ethanol diversion, because what we are seeing is when Niti Aayog had actually decided, or rather recommended, 55% of the ethanol was supposed to be coming from the sugar sector, only about 45 from the grain sector. Now the table is absolutely gone topsy-turvy. You have something like 60% being supplied by the grain sector and 40% by the sugar. So that for me is something much more alarming, and the government needs to seriously look at it. And we are enthused that at least the Secretary Food yesterday actually said that the first priority will be domestic, then ethanol. For me, ethanol is a bigger subject. Export at this point of time, it's a little premature. We can talk about export sometime in February. Yeah.
Right. Deepak, you want to react to that? Mr. Chaturvedi saying that he's not as optimistic as you.
Yeah, sure. See, let me put things in the right perspective. We opened the season with the opening stock of almost 80 lakh tons. And we are hoping that the production will be around 325 plus minus couple of lakhs tons. Even the government, even the secretary yesterday in his speech during the ISMA's AGM mentioned a figure of almost 320 lakh tons, but we believe it would be around 325 lakh tons. So even if we take 325 as the production for this year, and for the diversion, I completely agree with Mr. Chaturvedi. The first priority is the domestic consumption, followed by the diversion. But let me also tell you that the diversion almost finalized for this year. In the cycle one, we had a diversion of almost 37.5 lakh ton. In the cycle two, the offers which have been given by the sugar industry is coming to around 2 and 2.5 lakh tons. So, so I believe the diversion is almost maxed out this season. So I don't see any scope of any further diversion. So around 40 lakh tons of diversion, even if we take both the things and the normative stock of almost 55 lakh tons. And see, we also have to now focus on the consumption. The government has taken consumption of almost 290 lakh tons. Last year it was 290 lakh tons. But if we see the release for the last 3 months, from October to December, it is almost 6.5 lakh tons lesser than the last year. Last year, during the elections, April, May, June, there was a very increased, a high level of release, which is not going to happen this year. So even if we take a 23.5 average for the balance 9 months, the total consumption is going to come to around 280 lakh tons. We believe anything between 280 to 285 lakh tons is going to be the domestic consumption. So if we consider all these facts, we still have around 25-30 lakh tons extra sugar, which we believe it is very important that it goes out of the country. That is number one. Considering, see, yesterday's report has also said that the cane areas have been increasing and almost is yet to be verified. We'll try to verify it today. But we have heard that it is almost 4,500 crore of cane areas which have built up. So I believe even if in the first tranche, at the earliest, if the government allows almost 1 lakh tons, it could bring a revenue of almost 5,000 crore, which actually could contribute to the cane payment and clearing the cane areas. So I think it is very, very important. And also, as I said, the prices have to be stabilized. So both MSP and exports are very, very important at this moment. And this both will really contribute to stabilizing the prices here in India.
Right. Atul, reports for quite some time have been suggesting that the government is mulling a price hike for ethanol, but nothing has come through so far. How soon do you, anticipate this kind of an announcement?
We anticipated this announcement way back in September, and our friends in ISMA and Mr. Ballani have been pushing for it for quite some time, but somehow or the other, we have still not seen the ethanol prices getting revised. To me, it makes no sense that you have maize ethanol at 71.86 rupees per liter and cane juice ethanol languishing at around 65.61 or thereabout for cane juice and closer to 60 rupees for B heavy. To my mind, it is important for the health of the industry that ethanol prices are revised. And I'm sure our friends in ISMA have been pushing the government, but somehow or the other, due to reasons best known to the decision makers, we have still not seen this happening. What we are listening is that something is on the cards and hope that the cat is out of the bag right away because it's hurting the industry big time. So to me, I again would reiterate that at this point of time for the sugar industry, it's important that the ethanol values and MSP are raised upwards. Exports we can decide, we can push once the production is clear, because the joker in the pack is what is going to be the production this year. And that can only be assessed sometime towards end of January or maybe in February. So for us, ethanol pricing and MSP is something which is most critical at this point of time. Yep.
Pricing and MSP are the more critical ones, but Deepak, help us understand what are you hearing on this particular front and how much percentage points increase are you expecting in ethanol prices to happen? Deepak, that question is for you. All right, I guess we just snapped that line with Deepak as well as Atul. But Atul, just taking that point forward, that it is a very critical point and that the industry has been demanding for. But any take on how much percentage points increase should be there to provide some relief there?
No, in fact, we were expecting that the ethanol prices would be raised to closer to about maize ethanol prices, which means that the gap between maize ethanol and sugar ethanol would be bridged. But all kinds of rumors are floating around, and we're not sure which one to believe and which one not to believe. So I would prefer not to actually speculate on what the numbers could be. Our only hope is that it is sizable so that it actually brings some relief to the sugar. And as Deepak was talking that the cane dues have started mounting, I hope it helps in ensuring that we don't repeat the story of the past when cane dues used to mount.
But the other point that I wanted to pick up with you was also about ethanol blending with diesel, which hasn't quite taken off. A, what reasons would you attribute to that? And given the increased regulatory hurdles in terms of pricing, export restrictions, do you think this could lead to sort of reconsideration of further ethanol capacity addition by the sugar industry?
Yeah, so I believe, yesterday, Mr. Gadkari, in his speech during our AGM, also mentioned about ethanol blending with diesel. And I believe OMCs are doing various testing and experiments because I believe there are some technological challenges as well in ethanol blending with diesel. But I believe if this could be done, this will really give a boost to the sugar industry and the ethanol industry. As you know, we have fairly a good capacity. So even 20% petrol blending, today we have capacity is more than the what is required. And going forward, you know that there is the interministerial committee which is looking at E20 and beyond, and that will also look into how much is the ethanol required for the diesel blending in future. But I believe sugar industry will continue to enhance its capacity subject to the regular price mechanism, price correction vis-a-vis FRP. And I believe we have also requested that if we take about 2030-31 and we are looking at around 25% average blending in petrol as well as some diesel blending, we will require substantial additional capacities, and maybe the interest subvention scheme which was brought earlier, by which the in past industry has invested almost 40,000 crore. And if we consider another 5 years and with 25% blending, we'll require another 35,000 crore of investments. So I believe some of the schemes have to be brought back by the government so that the industry is motivated to invest and enhance its capacities.
Right. Okay. Deepak, Atul, both of you, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with us today. Good to get in that perspective. Seems pretty much work in progress, but let's see what we hear from the government next. Good.